Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Parrott, Brandon Parrott to be exact, and welcome to Meet the Teacher Night. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there in person because I'm also the 7th grade baseball coach, and we have our first game today, and it's an away game. So I'm at Washington Middle School right now, hopefully winning. But that is why I cannot be there in person. But I wanted to put together a little video of what I would do for Meet the Teacher Night so that you can get to know me, get to know what science is all about, and other things as far as the green team goes. There we go. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Washington, Illinois, and then that's where I went to school, K through 12, everything's through there. I get a lot of heat from my family because everybody still lives in Washington as far as most of my family goes. I live in Washington, but I'm considered the traitor because I've coach and teach for Morton there. But it is what it is. I've enjoyed myself here, obviously, with the number of years that I've spent here. Graduated after that, went to college for ISU, got my teaching certificate for science there, and then about 6 years ago went to got my master's degree from the American College of Education, where I specifically got my master's degree in teaching middle school science. So a lot of things picked up from there. Overall, this is my 11th year at Morton, my 10th year at the junior high. My very first year I was over at the high school. Overall teaching, this is my 12th year overall. I was someplace else for a year before I came here. I live in Washington with my wife, Erin. That's her kind of in the middle-ish picture here. This one, you can see my little mouse cursor right there. That's Erin, my wife. We have our 6-year-old son, Blake. He's the one in the glasses over here. We have our 4-year-old Kyle. He is the other one on the opposite side there with the big old cheesy smile. Don't let those looks fool you. They're both on their wild craziness, being 6 and 4. And then we got our dog Leo, the beagle. They're showing off what he does most of the day, which is just sleep. It's kind of weird for a beagle. Usually beagles are a little yappy one. He's not that. He's a lazy dog. Besides being the green team science teacher, I am also as I mentioned before, the reason why I'm not here today or tonight is that I'm the 7th grade baseball coach. This is my 7th year going on that. Before then, I've volunteered at every level in the program, but 7th grade is my kind of mainstay there, the first year that they're getting that taste of a sport for school. I'm also the T3 sponsor, which is our board gaming club. It's my 5th year having all that together. That usually starts up in the winter kind of seasons. Basically, once baseball's over with, we'll kind of start going into that stuff. It's a pretty open club. You just come when you can. We hang out and play games. I'm also the esports coach. That's at the high school. It's our 3rd year with that program now. We're pretty successful last year. We were 9th place in our division. The top 8 went on to the playoffs, so we just missed out on the playoffs there. But it was the first year that we actually officially got into the tournament and into the season because we missed it the very first year by the time we got approval. So in our first season, we did pretty well there. And, of course, I am also the green team leader, which is probably maybe the most importance to you because I'm the one that probably be doing a lot of the communicating possibly between you and how your student's doing, unless it's specifically for a specific class. And maybe it'll come from that specific teacher. But otherwise, I do a lot of the communicating overall. In fact, you'll probably get an email from me at some point, probably on Friday, with a nice little welcome introduction and stuff for people who've missed out on our Meet the Teacher Night and stuff, just to give everybody the full information of kind of what's been talked about over the last couple of weeks there. The last couple of days, not weeks. Our first day is Thursday, where Meet the Teacher Night is. So, first couple of days that we've done. So what will your student be learning in science? There's a couple of major topics in science. We we start off with what we're now calling our science skills, which is kind of like, you might remember doing like the scientific method in school. It's kind of like that, but it involves more kind of the skills-based kind of stuff. Because it's not just understanding, oh, here's observation and a hypothesis, and then you do the experiment. We do cover that because those are the steps of doing an experiment, but it's a lot more than that. It's how do we analyze the evidence that you got? So we use a method called the CER method, which is the claim, evidence, reasoning. What is your claim? Gathering up your evidence, and then give your reasoning for why you think that, which can be applied in a much broader spec than even just science, because in most things you can come up with a claim, you need to support any claim that you have with your evidence, and then you give your reasoning of why that claim and evidence works together. So it's kind of just almost like an overall skill that we teach them, but is specifically, we're looking at it from the science perspective, but it can be broadened to anything. Some of the other science-specific topics, we do a lot of biology, which is our life science stuff. So we do things with cells and the cellular processes in there. We'll do photosynthesis, respiration. We'll learn about all the different parts of the cell and what they do to contribute to a functioning cell that goes into a functioning human or animal or plant or whatever thing is considered to be alive at that point. We'll do a little bit of stuff involving genetics and heredity, DNA. Will be big in there since that's some of the, we know more now about that stuff, so we can talk about some of that. With those things, since those are both things that are involving the body, we do work in a little bit of anatomy stuff. Health does some of that stuff as well. They focus more on your different systems, like digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system. That stuff will get covered in kind of health class. We'll kind of just tie it together and put pieces in place as far as how things contribute to like the whole being. So how does DNA help out with the cells? How do the cells help out with tissues, to your organs? How your organs all play a role to get to a functional organism, which is you. So we work a little bit of anatomy in there. We talk about stuff involving our environment. That would be ecology. Recording this during the school day, so those are the school bells. With anatomy, so I already talked about anatomy. Ecology, study of our environment, so we'll look at food chains, food webs, our different biomes from around the world, how populations work, how we keep track of those populations as well in there. And then we also do a little bit of natural selection adaptations. Why are certain places in the world and not in other places? Why are polar bears only in, the polar regions and not in a tropical rainforest? We look at the science behind that and why they are the best fit to survive in that area. A little bit with that. And so that's a little bit of kind of a snapshot of what we've got. There might be little minier units in there that pop up, but those are like the broad categories of what we do. And like I said, it's all life science. They will get chemistry with a little taste of physics during their 8th grade year. So, how science is graded. My grading system is based off total points. So, some sample grades of what things are like in the past. Tests are always worth 100 points. There might be 3 or 4 tests a year. Because it's not always tests that I do at the end of the unit. Sometimes it's a bigger project. It depends on what the topic is. Some things lean more towards a test. Some things lean more towards a project to show your understanding. Homework assignments. Usually we give like maybe 2 to 3 homework assignments a week. We try not to have things on Friday because, it's the weekend. They should enjoy their weekend. Occasionally they might. I usually tend to give about 10 minutes of in-class time to work on whatever their assignments is, so all they have to do is just finish it off at home. But anywhere between 5 to 20 points. So they're usually shorter, quicker things to just kind of cover what we covered in class or to get them thinking about whatever we talked about in a different way. We've got labs and activities that go anywhere from 10 to 30 points. Some of our labs and activities also might be considered homework at times because if they don't finish like the lab questions at the end in class, they'll have to finish that night for homework. So I lump that sometimes in the homework category there. Some labs are specifically destined to finish in class, like we'll do microscopes and stuff. That stuff has to be done in class because they're not taking microscopes home with them. But for a lot of our different lab activities, it'll be stuff that we'll be able to do in class, finish it, and then they might just have to answer a couple of questions at the end that they might not have been able to finish in class. Projects then range anywhere from 20 to 100 points. Now, how are, usually with projects and with labs, they have partners. How partners work with me is that they have to do their own work still. Everybody turns in the project themselves and everybody turns in the lab themselves. How I consider partners is that it's like almost like a colleague. You share your information, you work with each other to do the lab, you get the data, but then everybody is interpreting and answering the questions on that data themselves so that they understand the content. As far as how they'll be paired up, I'll kind of swivel my camera around here so you can see my room. We have these tables. There'll either be another student at that table or maybe 2 students or 3 students total at a table, and they will work with those students until there's a new seating chart. Usually I do a new seating chart about every midterm into the quarter, so they'll be shuffled around a little bit at some predetermined time. So they're not always working with the same person. They work with a lot of other people there's another bell, other people in their class, so they should hopefully get to know everybody. I use Schoology for stuff. Most work that we do, I do through Schoology. We've used it the last 2 years. And we've just, the 7th grade teachers have, we've got a pretty good thing going as far as Schoology goes. So we do most of our work through Schoology. The only thing that wouldn't be through Schoology, if it's like some kind of actual graph that they have to make, or they have to do a drawing of something, a lot of those things will not be on Schoology. We'll have to do that by hand. The only papers that they should be having then are things that they don't need to turn in typically, like notes. Those will be on paper because then they can use them as reference points. But those are usually the things that they will have a printed copy of. We'll take notes in class, and then they'll use those notes on the Schoology online assignments for it. The other thing that I talked to them about is our iPad expectations, so I'll go through this quick. We expect them to be fully charged. For parents, they don't have the Apple Store. All the apps are only approved apps that they get in ZuluDesk. We expect them to read all their emails by the end of the next school day. When not in use, they need to be put away so they're not a distraction. Students need to have we have a monitoring system, just so that you know, at school we do, for that, where we can see their screens, all that kind of good stuff for it, so that we know that they're doing what they need to do. The main thing that I want to communicate to you is that if your student has a problem with their iPad, we can put a lock on it for at school or at home to limit their access. And if you think that is a problem for your student specifically, let us know so that we can lock it down. Because if you put the lock on the iPad, we might not have that code, or we might not have that ability to access things that we need to access while we're in the classroom, which means that we have to fully wipe the iPad and reinstall everything on there, which is a gigantic mess to try to do that when they're needing to use something in the classroom. So if you feel like they need a lock on it, please let us know so we can take care of it. We can share that password with you at home, but we need to have it here at school so that we all know what it is for that when they use it here. And we can gladly share that stuff and set that stuff up for you to it. Like I said, I'm the Green Team leader, so if you want to schedule a meeting with us during the day, feel free to contact me through email. Typically, our meeting day, our meeting times is 10:30 to 11 each day, except for Thursdays. That's usually like our school meeting time during that, and then there's some Fridays that we have that are already scheduled meetings as well, but I can give you some dates if you feel like that we need to schedule a meeting. I can give you some dates and some times that work for us so that we can try to sit down and talk about whatever problems that you have going on with it, or any kind of things that you feel needs to be discussed with it. And like I said, if you have any questions about Green Team or science, please send an email. I'll get back to you since I wasn't here in person. I usually respond within a day when I get the stuff. My email address is right there at the bottom, brandon.parrott at mcusd709. Parrot is with 2 T's because I'm not the bird. I'm better than the bird. So there's an extra little T in there. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. Hopefully you had a good night for Meet the Teacher Night and you got to meet everybody else. Hopefully this video was at least somewhat informative with it. Sorry I went a little bit long there. Looks like I got 15 minutes or so on this thing. But hopefully you found it. You got something out of it, hopefully. And I will hear from you later, if not see you at parent-teacher conferences or sometime else down the line. And I'll leave you with the thing that gets echoed in the halls every single day here at the junior high. It is a great day to be a junior Potter. Bye.